Hi guys, and welcome back to another What's for Dinner. This week we have a couple of requests, so if you do enjoy watching What's for Dinner videos, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. For more videos like this, feel free to hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to share this video if you enjoyed it with your friends and your family. So let's get started. I really wanna know. So I'm going to start by adding some oil to my pan. Today I'm using olive oil, but there's times that I've used vegetable oil. And then I'm going to be using Fideo pasta. Usually I use shell pasta or letter pasta or whatever one that I have, but today I'm using the Fideo one. Fideo soup is a traditional Mexican soup that many Mexican children grew up eating. Different Mexican mothers and grandmas make it different. This is just the way my mother-in-law taught me. So what I'm doing is I'm toasting up the pasta, and sometimes I do it light and sometimes I do it a little darker like today. And then I'm adding minced garlic, fresh garlic with my garlic press. It's one of my favorite kitchen tools. I used to just throw in the garlic clove in there, but then many times my girls would get a garlic clove, so this is just easier to get the flavor and nobody really notices it in there. And then I'm using half of the can of tomato sauce and I'm just mixing it in there. And then I'm going to be adding hot water, and once it comes to a boil, I'm going to be using my favorite chicken bouillon.
Down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high. Even if the sky is falling down, even if the sky is falling down, yeah. The sky is falling down. Even if the sky is falling down.
Once it comes to a boil, I add the chicken bouillon, and I don't really measure, I just taste it and see if it needs more. And after I added the right amount, I put the lid on it and I will let this cook on a medium to low heat for 20 minutes. So this is the first time that I'm sharing my salsa recipe in my video. I think it'd just be easier to throw it in the What's for Dinner. I do have many different ones, so I start off by using tomatoes, and then I have Chile Serranos. Those are our favorite chiles to use, and I'm boiling this one. There's some that I make fire roasted. Stay tuned for those videos. And also a molcajete. This one's just gonna be an easier one, and then I'm gonna be using Chile de Arbol. When I make salsas, my favorite chiles to use are Chile Serranos or Chile de Arbol, or in this combo both. Also too like to use tomatillos, and you can find this in any Mexican grocery store. And that's what the bag looks like, the Chile de Arbol. So after it comes to a boil, what I do is I first use the blender. I use the blender or my molcajete. This is the first time that I'm using the food processor. So I don't recommend you using a food processor unless that's the only thing you have. Just be very careful. It made a hot mess. And like my mom says, el flojo trabaja doble, which translates to I love you very much. Just kidding. It means the lazy person works double. And I was being lazy to get my blender, and I should have just got it because it would have been much easier. It's a big blender and I just throw everything in there, and it just really made a hot mess. It didn't blend it as well as I would like to, but overall the salsa was still delicious. So here you're just gonna be blending everything up. I always start by adding the chiles first and the garlic. I use 3 fresh garlic cloves, and then I add salt. I will be putting the exact ingredients down in the description, so if you want to make this salsa, check out the description. I always put ingredients to certain things. And then yes, I am making a hot mess, but this is real life. I always make hot messes in the kitchen, but I do clean as I go, so don't worry, you'll see that it will be clean in a bit. So making salsa at home is very easy. I do add a little bit of water in there as well, and then salt to taste. So now I'm going to be making some quesadillas, and these are just simple quesadillas, but I decided to add, besides I'm using Monterey Jack cheese, also using some ham, and I think that just gives it a little bit something extra. If you don't like using ham, you can skip it, or you can also use chicken. Chicken would actually be really good in this. And then my husband likes his quesadilla very like toasted, very like crispy. And here I'm making some guacamole, and the way I make my guacamole is very easy. It's just avocado, lemon, and salt. Very simple. If I want to add extra stuff, then I'll add more stuff to the guacamole, but this one was just very simple since the salsa already has everything in it. And then I just cut it with a pizza cutter, like a little triangle, and then I am serving here the sopa de fideo. So I will be putting the ingredients and the directions down in the description, and stay tuned. There will be different varieties of salsas in coming up videos. I do have one that I filmed the molcajete, so I will be making sure to get that video uploaded as well. And if you have any questions for salsas, let me know down in the description. And this is what we had for dinner. So I'm going to start by adding vegetable oil, and I'm only adding very little to my pan. And then I'm going to be using some pork chops and then Lori seasoning salt. And what I do is I want to season on each side, and I'm going to be layering the pan. I got a great deal on these pork chops for 99 cents, and this is just a different way of making pork chops. My mother-in-law taught me this recipe, and it couldn't be easier.
Remember when we used to make the streets unsafe together, baby? We were young and foolish then. Oh, how I wish we could go back again. I've decided it's been too long, baby.
So after seasoning both sides, I'm going to be adding water, just enough to cover the pork chops. I'm going to add the lid, and I usually cook this between 2 to 3 hours. This time I cooked it for 2 hours and 30 minutes, and it was just falling off the bone. And then my next step that I will be doing is I would just be taking out any bones that I see, and usually they're falling off the bone, so it's very easy to take out the bones.
Ni tus besos y tus chistes al azar. Quiero ser tu amor tuyo. Contigo yo me siento en control. Quiero ser tu amor tuyo. Besándonos a la puesta.
So now that I've taken out any big pieces of bone, now you see me moving the tongs a little weird. There's always little pieces of bones that I look out for, especially if you're serving this to little ones. You need to be very, very careful. The bone, cooking it with the bone does give it a lot of flavor, but if you choose not to add pork chops without the bone, that's totally optional. It's up to you. I'm just very, very careful, and I make sure to take my time making sure that I'm poking it and taking out as much as the bones, and then I'm going to start shredding it. But as you can see, I haven't even started shredding it, and it's pretty much already in very shredded already as is. So now I'm using my fork, and I'm just pretty much shredding it, and it's so easy because it cooked for such a long time that it pretty much just falling apart with so much flavor. So I made some Mexican red rice. I will put the video that I show you how to make this, very easy and simple. And then I added some pinto beans. I will also put a video on how to make pinto beans, so make sure you check out the description for those videos. I added the carnitas on top, and then the salsa that we had from the previous day, we used that and added that a little bit. And then I think we had a little bit leftover guacamole, and I put the the last of the guacamole on top of, this was my husband's plate. And then if you guys did see my what I eat in a day, you'll notice that I did add corn to mine. Definitely you can add lettuce. If I didn't have lettuce on this day, you can add whatever toppings you want and actually make it like however you want to. It's just this is the way we had it, and it was really, really good.
Tener niños y estar en un altar. Tu belleza no se me olvida. Let's get some sun, baby, it's time to go.
So on this day, it was New Year's Eve, and my mother-in-law asked me to make a ham. This isn't a spiral ham like I usually make. This is actually the butt portion of the ham. She got a really good deal. I believe she only paid $3. She got this on sale at Aldi. And what I'm doing right now is I am just cutting it this way, and then I'm going to show you guys how I do a glaze. My family really likes ham, and what I love about this is that it's so easy to make, and you can definitely make this for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, for Easter, a regular day, New Year's, whenever you want to. It's just so good, and any leftovers you could definitely use it for breakfast. So now I'm adding cloves in between, and it just looks really nice, but if you do not like cloves, definitely skip it. And then I'm going to show you how I make a very easy glaze to go on top of this. So I do have my oven preheated at 350, and what I'm going to do is before I make the glaze is that I'm just adding a little bit of pineapple juice. I'm going to cover this and add this in the oven, and I'm going to let this cook for 2 hours. So now I'm going to be making a brown sugar honey glaze, and this is perfect when you don't have the glaze to add to a spiral ham or just any ham that you want to do. And what I'm doing is I'm using 1 cup of light brown sugar. I'm using about 3 tablespoons of pineapple juice, and then I'm going to be adding about 1/4 of a cup of honey. I will make sure to add the measurements down in the description. If you are interested in how to make a spiral ham, I will put the video of how I make my spiral ham down in the description as well. And then once I add all these ingredients to the pan, I am going to be mixing it, and then I'm going to be boiling it. So after my ham has been cooked for 2 hours, I'm going to be throwing this glaze on top and letting it go for another hour and 30 minutes. I let the glaze come to a boil, and then I pour it over. Sunset slow. So for a quick side dish, I'm going to be making the corn, and this can't be any more easier. I'm using my Crockpot, so like that I don't have to worry about it being on the stove while I'm cooking the ham, and I was able to get ready. I'm using these Crockpot liners that I really love, and then I'm just throwing about 4 or 5 cans of canned corn. I make sure to drain them, and then it's just very simple. I'm adding a good amount of butter in there, and then I'm just adding pepper because my family loves black pepper. If you don't like black pepper, don't do it. And then we just put this on high, and I let this go for 2 to 3 hours, and then it was perfect and ready to go. I also made some baked potatoes to go alongside the ham. Gotta give me some love, nah, nah, nah. So after the ham has cooked for 2 hours, I'm now going to be adding some pineapples and some cherries using toothpicks. If you don't like adding pineapple, definitely skip it, and you can just put the glaze on top. So now I'm going to be pouring over the glaze, and this is optional. You can brush this on, you can add it before, you can add it after. I just like pouring it on because I've seen that it doesn't really make a difference, and this is just easier for me. I did forget to mention the reason I cut it is so that the glaze can go inside of it, and then I cover this up and it goes back in the oven for 1 hour and 30 minutes. So I decided to make some marshmallow pops. These are very similar to cake pops but are much easier to make, and I love making them for parties. You're going to be needing some big marshmallows, cake pop sticks, or if you don't have these cake pop sticks, you can also use popsicle sticks, will work just as fine. You're going to be using some chocolate. I only had white chocolate almond bark, but feel free to use any color candy melts, and then I'm going to be using some chocolate chips. You can use those as well. I don't like using the white chocolate for marshmallows since it's the same color, but I'm working with what I had. So I'm going to be melting this chocolate, and what you want to do is you want to put this in the microwave for 30 seconds intervals until it's fully melted. Just be very careful to make sure that you do not burn your chocolate. If you feel like it gets too chunky or too hard, feel free to use vegetable oil or shortening, but do not add water because this will ruin your chocolate. And now I'm going to be getting my cake pop stick. I'm going to be dipping just a little bit of chocolate, and this is exactly what is going to hold the cake pop stick to your marshmallow, and this part is very important. Please do not skip this part. And then I always start off with a little bit of chocolate. If I need more, I will melt more, and this is the consistency that I'm looking for. It takes about 60 to 90 seconds, but I'm doing it in 30 seconds intervals in the microwave. Once that chocolate has set and it has hold, I put it in the freezer, the marshmallow treats, for about 15 minutes, and then I bring them back out. I'm dipping the chocolate now inside the marshmallow treats, and if you just want to add sprinkles, you can just leave it like that and it'll look cute. I'm going to be doing a chocolate drizzle on top. Now if you think what I'm doing with my hand is kind of weird, it does look weird honestly, but what you want to do is you want to be very careful with the popsicle stick. Even though we added that chocolate to give it that hold, this is how cake pops break and how they're very fragile. So I just tap my hand instead of tapping on the stick, just so that I prevent the marshmallow pop from sliding off or from breaking off. I just be very gentle, and I want to take off any excess chocolate off the marshmallow pop. Now I'm placing them upside down, but if you want to stand them up, you can put them placed on a styrofoam, or you can also place them in a cup and put them in the fridge, whatever is your preference. This is just the easiest way for me to use them upside down, since I'm going to be placing them on a tray. And then if you want to add sprinkles, feel free to add sprinkles while the chocolate is still wet and it still hasn't set. This is going to be the best time to do it, or you can leave them plain. I will be adding sprinkles, but I'm going to be doing that as I drizzle. You do need to work a little fast with this because chocolate, depending on the temperature where you're at, the weather, does set pretty quick. So now I melted those mini chocolate chips, and then I'm going to be drizzling just a simple drizzle. I'm going to be using this Ziploc bag, and I placed this cup just for easy hold. I usually use a smaller bag, but I was out of the smaller ones and only had a big one, so I just, like I said, I work with what I got and I just make the best out of it. So now I'm going to be cutting the tiniest little hole on this Ziploc bag, and that's what I'm going to be used to drizzling on the marshmallows. After I drizzle it, I'm going to be using these silver sprinkles, and since the chocolate is still wet, I have to work fast before it sets. After I drizzle the chocolate, I'm going to be placing these back in the freezer for 15 minutes. Each time that I dip the marshmallows in chocolate, I am placing them back in the fridge or the freezer for about 15 minutes to let it set. And then once they're done and completely set, they are ready to eat. If you are not going to eat them that same day, you can definitely pop them in the freezer. They're good in the freezer for about 2 to 3 weeks, max even a month. So this is what the marshmallow pops look like. Very simple and easy to make and very delicious. The kids love these, and I've made these in different colors and different varieties. So definitely I hope you give this one a try. So we went to my mother-in-law's house and she made menudo. She made a white one, and then this is the ham. I did take out a little bit of the juice because it was a little bit too much of the ham. And then also this is the corn. Those are the baked potatoes. And this is what the menudo looks like. It is very delicious. If you have not tried menudo, it is very, very good. So the following day, I wasn't starting to feel good, and neither was my girls. We had just gone to the doctors, and I just wanted to throw a quick freezer meal. These are really like my lifesavers. I always say it. I throw whatever I have in the freezer, and I know this isn't the healthiest, but this is why I buy these kinds of things, because I know that in 20-30 minutes, I can have the quickest dinner, and it won't cost me as much. So I normally make a salad to go with this, but I didn't have none. I actually just made some green beans. My girls, I always serve them first, and they had that cheese pizza. The green beans, I just added a bit of butter and some pepper. This was my plate with some chicken nuggets, tater tots, and a cheese pizza. And then I love using this ketchup for dipping and that barbecue for dipping. And this was dinner for that day. So we're going to be making some carne con papa, which is just beef with potato, and we're using beef chuck, and my husband was helping me cut up the meat. And here we're going to be cutting it into bite-sized pieces, and this does have a bone on it, and we're going to be using the bones to cook with it, just to flavor it, and when we're done we will take them out.
And I'm so lucky to be yours, and you're taking me
So we added some vegetable oil to our pan, and now we're going to be adding the beef, and we're adding the beef to it as well as the bones, because the bones is going to release some flavor, and then once it's fully cooked we will take out the bones. We're also going to be seasoning this just with some Lori's seasoned salt. I am also going to be adding some garlic, and I like to use this garlic press, just an easy way to get some fresh garlic. And then I'm going to be putting the lid, and I'm going to let this cook.
Jump into the car on a Friday night, I want to drive with you. Looking for a bar in the nearest town, I've never seen a sky so blue. And you're taking me high.
So when making carne con papa, many people make it different ways. We're going to be adding about half an onion, and then I'm just giving everything a rough chop. Usually when I chop vegetables, I like it to be very small, especially onion, but it just depends. So I'm just giving it a very, very rough chop, and then I'm going to be adding the onions first.
And every day, every way, I feel like
while the beef cooks, I'm going to be adding my chopped up onion. And then while I add the chopped onion, I'm just going to give it a quick mix. And then I'm going to start by cutting my Chile Serrano. If you do not like adding onion or Chile Serranos, definitely feel free to skip it. But before I cut the Chile Serranos, I'm actually going to be cutting the potatoes. And I'm just giving the potatoes a rough chop. I'm not trying to make this too small. And once I add the potatoes, so I'm using 3 potatoes and I use half an onion. I'm going to be using also 2 tomatoes and 2 Chile Serranos. The way that I'm adding the things in, I'm layering in. The onion will release a flavor while it cooks, and then the potatoes is what's going to take the longest to cook. So these will take about 20 minutes to cook. So while I am adding the potatoes, I will be chopping up the chiles and the tomatoes, and usually that takes about less than 20 minutes, but in total I want the potatoes to cook for 20 minutes. So now that the meat is at this point is finally fully cooked, it's releasing its own fat and its own flavors. We are taking out the bones, we don't need them anymore. And then we're going to be adding the potatoes and adding a little bit of the Lori seasoning salt, as well as later on I will add some black pepper. I'm going to place the lid back on, and like I said, I'm going to now put a timer for 20 minutes. So definitely, if you don't like spicy food, you can just use the meat and the potatoes and leave it like that. But if you do want to add more flavor, you can add the chopped up onion, the chopped up tomato, and if you do like it spicy, I recommend you to add Chile Serrano. You can start by adding just 1. We added 2 and it was just the perfect amount of heatness. And then I'm just cutting them up in rounds. Like I said, I'm not worried about cutting everything diced up and small. This is just like a rough chop. And then what is great about this dish is that you really bulk up the meat, and it's a great way to save money. But also too, if there's leftovers, this makes great for burritos, which is always so good the next day. So while I let that cook, I'm going to be chopping up these tomatoes, and the reason that I add the tomatoes till the end is the tomatoes are going to release a lot of juice, and it will make this more with juice and more flavor. So I totally leave it at the end. By this time it was like 10 minutes of the cooking time, so that's perfect enough because you don't want to bite into a piece of raw tomato. So I let it cook for the 10 minutes, and what really important here is that the beef is fully cooked and the potatoes are fully cooked. But this dish is very quick and easy to make. So now the last 10 minutes of the cooking time, I'm going to be adding the tomatoes in there and let it continue cook with the lid on. And then on the side I have a pot of boiling water. I'm going to be adding some salt because I'm going to be making some macaroni and cheese. This macaroni and cheese my mother-in-law taught me. It is very different, so for all the mac and cheese connoisseurs, don't come at me. Wait until you try it. It sounds very weird, but it's really good and very easy to make. So once my water has come to a boil, I added salt, and then I added the elbow macaroni and follow the cooking directions. Then I'm going to add the pasta back into my pan. I'm going to add a little bit of butter, and then I'm going to add some pepper to it. So I have this on a low to medium heat, and I'm just mixing in the butter to let it melt. I do want to say that my husband and I didn't grow up eating like traditional macaroni and cheese or the box macaroni and cheese. So this is the way that my mother-in-law makes it, and I really like it. My husband really likes it, and I just been making macaroni and cheese like this for many years. And after this is where we're going to be adding half of a can of tomato sauce. Yes, you heard me right. I'm going to be adding half a can of tomato sauce. So I know this is not traditional at all. This is something that my mother-in-law makes, but it's really good and helps it give it that orange color. Now I'm going to be adding about 1 cup of cheese. I usually add Monterey Jack. I feel like that goes really well in it. but I didn't feel like shredding it this time, so I just used this Mexican style blend, and I added 1 cup to it, and I mixed it up, and pretty much at this point it is already done.
I stand by you when you're falling, when the river is calling. I said I love you forever, we can make it together. What goes up must come down, there's lots of friendly faces all around, and nothing's ever lifting me higher than a touch of your sweet desire. What we're all built in right, we just have to hold on.
So this is what it looks like all plated up. This was so good, and we used our leftovers to make burritos. I hope you guys did enjoy this week What's for Dinner. If you did, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. For more videos like this, feel free to hit that subscribe button. If you are subscribed, thank you so much. I hope you can share this video with your friends and family, and thank you so much for those requests. And I will see you guys on the next video. Bye!